My name is Beryl Wilcherson and I live in Blackburn, and I have for something like 60, 70 years, and this is where I really contacted lifeAssist, and they have been so helpful in every sense of the word. He was in hospital and the nurse came to see me and said, I want you to have a social worker come to see me. I think she thought I wasn't doing all that well because Bob had been in and out of hospital quite a bit. And I had the assessment done, and the next thing I know, I'm involved with lifeAssist. I was of the impression that when you married, you stayed with your husband till the end, and if he was sick, well, that was part of the whole deal. So it was quite a shock for me to know that I could have help when I'd been some years looking after him without any knowledge that there was places in Melbourne where you could go and get this help. First of all, they came and visited me and chatted about my husband, who was then still living at home, and gave me so much help. It was just wonderful. He had daycare help, which was absolutely, really good for me because I'd have time out. And then he got quite sick. I had just had an operation on my feet and I wasn't allowed to put my feet to the ground, and he'd said, I'm just going into Melbourne, he said, to go to footy. He didn't like football, he never even followed it. And I said, oh Bob, don't do that, just walk down to the front and look in the letterbox, see if there's any mail. Well, he didn't come back. About 2 o'clock the next morning, I had a ring from the police to say someone saw him in Main Street. The police brought him in and he was as if he'd just gone to the letterbox. So it wasn't soon after that he was back in hospital, and I realised I just couldn't cope any longer, and I got in touch with the superintendent of Strathton. I said, look, I can't manage any longer, Sue. I knew her, and she said, look, I don't think I've got a bed, but we'll see what we can do, because I'd been in touch with them hoping he could go in there sometime. And that was Wednesday, and on Friday he was in Strathton. So I was just so fortunate. And then I had another assessment, this time for myself, and because I have problems with my legs, they decided to put me on a linkage program. And so I got help. I already had help with house cleaning, but they gave me extra help, which was just wonderful, like a gardener, and also help with my golf, if you please, which I thought was just outstanding, but that's what happened. And look, it's just gone from one good thing to another, as far as I'm concerned. That's about my whole story, I suppose, and it's gone on for 5 years, 6 years, I suppose. Bob was he's now passed away just this year, but he was in care for 4.5 years, and we were well with the lifeAssist long before that. So it's just wonderful, really, that there's places, so many places that are helpful for people with trouble, like trying to manage on their own. Because, as I said earlier, I was of the impression Bob was to be in my care until he died. And I don't know how I would have managed in those last years, because it was just getting beyond me. So there's so many people within the society that don't realise that there's help for older people or with people with disabilities that really can't manage, because we get older and we just can't cope. I wasn't as well as I thought I was, but I thought I was all right. I thought, oh, I can manage, that's the sort of person I am. And when I look back, he'd have falls, he'd wet the bed, and like go off like he did, and that's what happens with dementias, you never know, or Alzheimer patients, you never know what, they've got an idea into their head, and nothing you say to them will make them change their mind. So that's when you've really got to, it's good to know that there's somewhere you can go and get help. Don't be afraid to go ask people, is there help? To think that you've got to do all this on your own. You don't have to. There's people out there. This lifeAssist will come and help you, talk to you, and explain the assistance you can get when you're really down and out.
I'm a consultant in the positive ageing team at lifeAssist. When I first started working with Beryl, Bob was still living at home here with her, and Bob was obviously a very intelligent and very active man, but it was evident that dementia was taking hold. I was pleased to see that the social worker at the hospital had suggested to Beryl that she have an assessment done for Bob, and from that assessment Bob was given a CAPS package, which is now called a Home Care Level 2 package. We were able to support Beryl in terms of the physical work that needed doing, which gave Beryl the opportunity to concentrate her time and effort into caring for Bob. And when Bob's condition worsened, Beryl was clever enough to advocate for Bob to enable him to get a permanent bed in a nursing home, which was very convenient to their own home. From there, we managed to move a package in for Beryl to support her. And Beryl's mentioned that we've helped her to play golf. Well, part of that is what we call restorative health program, because we don't want people just depending on services from us forevermore. We like to encourage the restorative health. For me, it's a pleasure to see Beryl still continuing on at home as well as she is. Sadly, a lot of people will put off asking for assistance because they might even be frightened that if they allow someone to encroach on their independence, it's going to be taken away from them. That is never going to happen. We work with our clients and with their families to ensure the best outcomes possible for them. That's the important thing, because we don't want a worn-out carer, because then instead of having an ageing person or a person with disability who needs care, we've got two people.
Yes.
And that's the important thing that we need to recognise, and people in those roles need to recognise as well. Yeah.